It had been 7 years since my divorce from Aiden Sanders when we ran into each other by chance at a flower shop. He was there to buy flowers for his pregnant wife, while I had only stepped in to take shelter from the rain. After a moment of awkwardness, we greeted each other. Aiden politely asked me how I had been doing over the years, and I politely replied that everything was fine. As we were about to part, he suddenly said, "Nina, you seem a little different from before." I smiled but didn't answer. Actually, nothing was different. I just no longer loved him. A damp breeze blew in through the crack in the door. The only sound left in the room was the rain hitting the window pane. This awkward silence finally broke when the shopkeeper emerged with a bouquet of irises. "Mr. Sanders, you and your wife have such a wonderful relationship. Even on rainy days, you remember to come buy flowers for her." Aiden took the flowers and instinctively glanced at me. As was his habit, he immediately explained, "Erin's been quite moody during her pregnancy. I thought these flowers might cheer her up." I nodded and responded with a few polite compliments. Seeing the rain gradually come to a stop, I picked up my bag and prepared to leave. As I reached the door, Aiden suddenly grabbed my hand. "Where do you live? Let me walk you home." "No need," I said, taking a few steps back to keep my distance from him. "I'm afraid your wife will misunderstand." I was turning to leave when I thought I heard Aiden say something else, but the howling wind carried his voice away before I could catch it. Unfortunately, the breakfast I was holding got soaked in the rain. What a waste. I quickly tossed the ruined breakfast into the trash can. At that time, the winds blew up my sleeves, revealing the scars from self-harm years ago. I paused, then suddenly remembered. This was the 7th year since my divorce from Aiden. It was also the 3rd year since I had truly let him go. There was none of the sadness I might have imagined, none of the hysteria from right after the divorce. I felt calm, as if looking at a stranger. The rain had stopped, leaving the sky bright and clear. I pulled my sleeve back down and walked towards the bakery nearby. Sabrina Sherman, who was helping out at the shop, greeted me with a bright smile. "Nina, you're here. I was tidying up some clutter and found this box. Can you check if you still want it? If not, I'll throw it out to make space for the bread cutting machine." After brushing the dust off the box, the first thing that caught my eye was Aiden's bold, confident handwriting. "To Nina Jones." Sabrina immediately became interested. She playfully asked, "Wow, which man gave you this gift? The packaging is so exquisite. It looks like he put a lot of thought into it." She eagerly looked at the signature at the end, but the moment she recognized the elegant handwriting, she froze in place. Even her voice stammered. "Aiden Sanders? Do you mean the legendary prodigy with a PhD in physics? That super handsome astrophysics doctor who made it into international journals for discovering a minor planet?" Sabrina's gaze towards me instantly filled with admiration. "Nina, who exactly are you?" I opened the gift box and replied calmly, "I'm Aiden's ex-wife. The one who was paranoid, who acted crazily. The one who was admitted to a psychiatric hospital because of delusions. The ex-wife, whom he considered the disgrace of his life." Under Sabrina's persistent questioning, I sat down and began to tell her the story of Aiden and me. When I first met him, he wasn't yet the legendary genius boy. Everyone in the neighborhood saw Aiden as nothing more than a problematic introvert child with strange behavior. He had no friends and no family to rely on. His parents were too busy fighting over their divorce, treating him like a ping-pong ball neither wanted. I could still vividly remember that bone-chilling winter in this city, where Aiden huddled in the stairwell, shivering in nothing but a thin undershirt. I felt sorry for him and brought him home. Not long after, while playing a simple game, my father accidentally discovered his astonishing talent for math. From that moment on, Aiden was changed. He won the math Olympiad at the age of 10, and was accepted into the best university without taking any exams at 14. By 16, his published research was gaining international acclaim, and his awards began to pile up. The same couple who hadn't wanted him were now fighting over custody, yet he still knelt before my father, pleading with all his heart. "I know exactly who has been kind to me and who truly loves me," he said. "From today on, you and Mrs. Jones are my real parents. I will definitely take good care of you and Nina." Thereafter, Aiden strived for success, never once thinking of abandoning me. When he received his university placement, he insisted that they lower the admission score so that I could attend with him. When he became a professor, he demanded that they create a staff position for a family member. I worried I wouldn't be able to keep up with his pace, but Aiden looked at me and said, "The year I was 8, my parents divorced. Neither of them wanted me. I sat alone on the stairs from dusk till dawn, until you found me and took me in. From that moment, I swore I would never leave you. Nina, without you, I wouldn't be who I am today. No matter how high I fly, I'll never abandon you." That's the kind of person he was, exceptionally stubborn. Once he set his mind on something, he never let go. Whether it was his research, pursuing me, or even when he was cheating on me. "Cheated?" Hearing that, Sabrina's eyes widened in disbelief. "You two were childhood sweethearts, grew up together, had such a deep relationship, and he still cheated." Who's the mistress? Is she a rich heiress or a stunning beauty? Is she one of those scheming, alluring and vicious femme fatale from TV dramas? She asked exasperatedly. None of those. Aiden's mistress was a dark-skinned, thin and plain-looking flower seller. By that time, Aiden had already achieved remarkable success in his career. He no longer chased fame or fortune. Instead, he poured his energy into personal hobbies. He wasn't into stocks, fishing, or tea, but he suddenly developed an interest in flowers. Imported, cheap, common, rare. Aiden collected them all, bringing them all to his little garden. Among them, his favorite was the iris I gave him on his birthday. It was this flower that sparked my interest in flowers all over the world, he once said. Such an unremarkable little seed, yet with human care, it can bloom into something so beautiful. The whole process is just fascinating. He said he loved the flowers, but he loved the process of their blooming even more. In this small world, he was the god who controlled everything. Blooming, withering, fading, blossoming, it was all his to command. I couldn't understand what Aiden was saying. A flower was just a flower. It bloomed when it wanted, fell when it was time. Why bother with all that? That was when Erin Ziegler, who was helping us move the flowers that day, suddenly lifted her head. You're right, Professor Sanders. I love this feeling too, Erin agreed. The quality of flowers depends entirely on how diligently the gardener cultivates them. Look how well this iris is growing. I've taken such good care of it. They first met one fall with the irises in full bloom. The flowers were the reason, but I also took part in it. After that, Aiden started ordering flowers from Erin regularly. Roses, peonies, magnolias, lilacs. Our villa was slowly transforming into a sky garden, and their relationship grew closer and closer. Then one day, Aiden suddenly offered to sponsor Erin's education. She's only a teenager, remarkably intelligent and willing to work hard. It would be a pity to let such talent go to waste. Erin nervously picked at the thick calluses on her hands. A worried yet almost pleading smile appeared on her dark little face. She spoke timidly. Nina, I'll study hard, I promise. I had good grades before. I only dropped out because my mother was in an accident and I had no choice but to support the family. Please give me this chance. I won't let you down. Her young face was etched with fatigue and pain that were unsuited to her age. Looking at those sincere eyes, I suddenly recalled the image of Aiden sitting helpless and confused in the stairwell when he was 8 years old. Once again, my heart softened. For a long time after that, I treated Erin like a younger sister. I bought her clothes, taught her about skincare and shared wisdom on how to navigate relationships. She kept calling my name, saying I was the kindest person in the world to her. She even promised that she would repay my kindness if she ever had the chance. Well, that girl didn't disappoint my expectations. She made it into the university where Aiden and I worked. The same night she received her acceptance letter, she climbed into Aiden's bed. I had left work early that day, planning to cook a whole table of dishes to celebrate her achievement. But when I got home, I saw them tangled together, with their clothes half off, their bodies pressed close. In that moment, I lost my mind. I threw the cake right onto both of them. Then I smashed every single flower and plant in the house to pieces. Aiden shielded Erin behind him, watching my actions with a cold stare instead. Nina, when you're done making a scene, close the door. You have no shame, but Erin still does, he sneered. Between her and me, he had chosen the other woman without hesitation. I couldn't bear any of it and forced Aiden to give me an explanation. Sadly, he just frowned and said, Nina, you're still my wife. As long as you behave, Erin will never threaten your position. At that same time, Erin suddenly knelt before me. Nina, I know I've wronged you, but Aiden and I truly love each other. We're soulmates who understand each other best in this world. Don't worry, I'll never forget your kindness. I don't want a title, nor will I compete with you. All I ask is to stay by Aiden's side. Back then, I was barely in my 20s. It was that age when youth and pride made me intolerant of any injustice. I sent a letter of report to the university, intent on exposing their disgusting, immoral affair. However, reality quickly taught me a lesson. The university would never dismiss Aiden, its most respected professor. Instead, they give me a disciplinary warning to calm him down. Aiden even made a public statement, asking his fellow professors to look after Erin. That man proudly said, "This is my student. She is intelligent, eager to learn and diligently hardworking. I sincerely hope that, for my sake, none of you will make things difficult for her. She's come a long way from being a flower seller to where she is today, enduring countless hardships. Perhaps Erin isn't outstanding or exceptionally brilliant, but in my eyes she is the best. She is my greatest pride." Aiden even admitted that Erin's admission into this prestigious institution was partly due to his behind-the-scenes influence. He knew it wasn't the right thing to do, but he didn't care. He only hoped that Erin would have a bright future. Then what about me? What was I? A joke? I hid at home, crying night after night. No matter how many times I turned over in bed, all I could see were those twisted, mocking faces around me. Meanwhile, Aiden continued to take care of his irises. He said casually. Nina, haven't you figured it out yet? Your job, your reputation, your status, everything you have comes from me. Without me you are nothing. I told you, Aaron won't threaten your position. Be sensible. Can't we just live our lives in peace? No. Absolutely not. I couldn't stand it. Having a husband who lived by my side day and night, yet kept thinking about another woman all the time. I began to lose control. I screamed, shouted, and became hysterical. I even launched an almost insane campaign to take revenge on this despicable couple. When Aiden gave a speech, I replaced his slides with explicit photos of him and Aaron. When they were being interviewed, I rushed forward and exposed their sordid relationship. I wrote countless complaint letters and filmed countless short videos documenting their actions. However, all my efforts earned me was a single document, a psychiatric evaluation report. Aiden was too clever. He expertly guided me into a state of madness, then used videos of my outbursts as evidence. His intelligence, social standing, and deep understanding of me meant he could destroy me effortlessly. In the end, I got fired from my job, had my degree certificate revoked, and was personally committed to a mental hospital by Aiden himself. I tell this part calmly, but Sabrina's eyes are already red with tears. She sobbed and asked me, "What happened after that?" After that, I found out I was nearly 5 months pregnant while still in the mental hospital. When Aiden heard it, he came to take me home. The arrival of this child made him compromise. He brought me back, held my hand, and said, "Nina, I did make mistakes, but you shouldn't have caused such chaos either. Your parents' hair turned white overnight because of you. Now whenever they go out, people point fingers and gossip about them. You're not young anymore. Can you please stop being so reckless?" Then he placed my hand on my belly. "Think about this child. Think about your parents." Tears slipped down into my palm. This time, I chose to cooperate. After all these events, my heart was severely wounded, and I was utterly drained. Every day, I felt like a zombie, spending my days in that flower-filled house, lost in thought. Aiden would come home on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays to be with me and give early education lessons to the baby in my belly. Yet on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, he was with Aaron, savoring the sweetness of their new relationship. Ignoring his own stomach issues, he accompanied Aaron to try all the new, interesting, trendy food spots. Milk tea, coffee, hot pot, ice cream, whatever she liked, Aiden never refused. This man, who once thought wasting 10 minutes was a disgrace, now willingly sat through one boring romantic movie after another with her. This man, who valued his career above all else, was now happily engaged in all kinds of childish things with his mistress. To protect Aaron, Aiden allowed her to be a co-author on a paper that was outside her major. He even played pranks on his colleagues and skipped his own lectures, all to amuse her. In doing so, he not only trampled on my face and dignity, but also completely disregarded the ethics and fundamental rules of our entire profession. What finally made me explode was Aiden's meticulously planned marriage proposal for Aaron. That year, Aiden had become instantly famous after discovering a minor planet. He didn't just appear in international journals. His handsome looks also made him a sensation nationwide. At the peak of his life, he chose to share that glory with Aaron. He named the minor planet Arendon, which meant forever intertwined. Just like Aiden and Aaron, who vowed never to part. That same night he received the award, in a romantic planetarium, under Arendon, he held a small wedding ceremony for her. Watching Aaron in her wedding dress, walking slowly toward Aiden and seeing the two of them exchange vows to stay together until their hair turned white, under that starry sky, I broke down all over again. Back then, Aiden and I had never had a wedding. When I begged him repeatedly, he only said, "Nina, you know me. I don't like those showy things. Rather than waste time and effort, I'd rather use my energy on real work. I have many experiments to finish." Because I loved him, I gave in. Because I loved him, I also lost everything I had. All the emotions I had bottled up for so long finally erupted. In front of all the guests, I rushed forward, tore the wedding dress off Aaron and slapped her hard across the face twice. Aiden splashed a glass of water across my face. His voice was cold as ice when he said, "Nina, you've crossed the line." Soon after, he filed for divorce and said he would take Aaron away. Of course, I refused. I couldn't and wouldn't let go. I cried as I spoke to Aiden. "If you dare leave today, I'll jump off this cliff with the child." Aiden didn't leave. Instead, he pushed me down. Maybe he only meant to frighten me, but in the end, I truly lost the baby I had been longing for. I was admitted to the mental hospital again, this time for severe depression. When I talk about it now, I smile a little and say in a calm, almost indifferent tone, "In my second year at the asylum, Aiden filed for divorce. I fought it until the very end, but I got nothing except this box of junk." The year after the divorce, I couldn't accept any of it. I self-harmed and went insane countless times. My condition was so bad that I couldn't find suitable work. My parents were so worried about me that their hair turned white, and their health was getting worse day by day. Afraid of making them worry more, I started helping at the family bakery and surprisingly, My emotions gradually stabilized. Soon I concluded. Now I've inherited the shop and I'm actually doing quite well. My tone was calm, but Sabrina sobbed uncontrollably. Nina, why are you suffering so much? Aiden is a real jerk. If I see him, I'll definitely beat him up to a pulp to get revenge for you. As soon as she finished speaking, the door was pushed aside. There Aiden stood, right in front of us. The cloudy glasses made his face hard to see. Yet suddenly I remembered the words he had said when we parted. I think he said, Nina. The bell above the bakery door chimed, a sharp, cheerful sound that violently pierced the heavy atmosphere inside. Sabrina froze, the bread tongs slipping from her hand to clatter against the glass display case. She stared at the man standing in the doorway, her eyes darting between him and the elegant handwriting on the box in my hands. Aiden stood there, his coat damp, his umbrella dripping onto the pristine welcome mat. The fog on his glasses slowly cleared, revealing those familiar, deep-set eyes. He looked exactly the same as he had 7 years ago, immaculate, composed, and carrying that quiet arrogance of a man who believed the world revolved around his intellect. But as his gaze locked onto me, I saw a flicker of something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. Nina. He paused, stepping into the warmth of the shop, the scent of butter and toasted sugar washing over him. I realized I made a mistake. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Sabrina let out a sound that was half gasp, half snarl. She grabbed a heavy, wooden rolling pin from the counter, her knuckles turning white. You have exactly 5 seconds to get out of this shop before I rearrange your genius brain, Professor. Aiden didn't even look at her. To him, Sabrina was a background character, an extra in the movie of his life. He kept his eyes entirely on me. I tracked your payment from the flower shop, he said, his voice lowering into that calm, authoritative register he used during his lectures. You used a business account. Jones Bakery. I didn't believe it until I stood outside. I looked at him. I didn't feel the phantom pain in my wrists, nor did my heart skip a beat. I just felt a profound, exhausting boredom. You're tracking me now? I asked, my voice steady as I closed the lid of the box. Are the irises wilting already, Aiden? He flinched. The mention of the flowers seemed to break his carefully constructed facade. Erin isn't, she's having a difficult pregnancy. The hormones, the stress. We don't talk the way we used to. I saw you today, standing in the rain, and for the first time in years I felt. He swallowed hard. I felt quiet. You look so peaceful, Nina. Peaceful. The word almost made me laugh. He had locked me in a white room with padded walls, stripped me of my child, my career, and my sanity. And now he wanted to bask in the peace I had painstakingly built from the ruins he left behind. I picked up the box. Aiden's eyes lit up slightly as he recognized his own handwriting. A small, self-satisfied ghost of a smile touched his lips. Thought I had kept it out of longing. He thought I was still the girl who would sit in the dark, waiting for the god of her small universe to return. I walked out from behind the counter. Aiden took a step forward, perhaps expecting me to hand it to him, to reminisce. Instead, I walked past him, lifted the lid of the heavy industrial trash can by the door, and dropped the box inside. It landed on top of the ruined breakfast I had thrown away earlier, surrounded by coffee grounds and eggshells. Trash pickup is on Tuesdays, I said, looking him dead in the eye. If you want it back, you're welcome to dig for it. Otherwise, please leave. You're tracking mud into my shop. Aiden stared at the trash can, then back at me, his face pale. The god of the garden had just realized he had no power over this soil anymore. Nina, he whispered, a genuine crack in his voice. I just wanted to talk. We have nothing to talk about, Professor Sanders. Goodbye. I turned my back on him. I didn't wait to see him leave. I simply walked over to Sabrina, gently took the rolling pin from her trembling hands, and said, let's prep the dough for the afternoon rush. We have 50 croissants to roll. Behind me, the bell chimed again. He was gone. I thought that would be the end of it, but I had underestimated the suffocating reality of Aiden's current life. 2 weeks later, the whispers started making their way from the university district to my bakery. The academic world is small, and gossiping students love the quiet corners of my shop. Aaron Ziegler, the greatest pride of Professor Sanders, had not lived up to the fairy tale. It turned out that stealing a man was easy, but keeping a narcissist entertained was a full-time job. Once Erin got her degree, barely and heavily reliant on Aiden's ghostwriting, she had insisted on a position at the university. But without my meticulous, behind-the-scenes management of Aiden's schedule, his social graces, and his grants, Aiden's golden boy status began to tarnish. He missed deadlines. He alienated colleagues who had only tolerated Erin out of respect for him. And Erin? She grew paranoid. She knew exactly how Aiden had discarded his wife of a decade. She knew that if a dark-skinned, plain-looking flower seller could catch his eye, anyone could. Aiden started coming to the bakery. He never came inside. He would just park his sleek black Audi across the street, sitting in the driver's seat for an hour every afternoon. He watched the warm, golden light of my shop. He watched me laugh with customers, wipe down tables, and hand out free cookies to the neighborhood children. He was starving for the warmth he had voluntarily burned down. Should I call the cops? Sabrina asked one afternoon, glaring out the window at the Audi. No, I replied, piping vanilla cream into an eclair. Let him watch. Let him see exactly what he can never have again. But Aiden's lurking didn't go unnoticed by the one person who was watching him as closely as he watched me. It happened on a busy Friday afternoon. The shop was packed with students and locals when a woman pushed through the doors. The cheerful chatter in the room instantly died down. It was Erin. She was heavily pregnant, wrapped in a designer trench coat that didn't quite hide the frantic, exhausted slump of her shoulders. Her face, once thin and determined, was swollen and pale. Dark circles hung under her eyes, and her hair was a messy, frizzy knot. She didn't look like a soulmate. She looked like a woman drowning. She scanned the room, her eyes locking onto me behind the counter. For a second, a flash of pure, unadulterated hatred crossed her face, quickly followed by the pathetic, tear-filled mask she used to wear when she begged me to sponsor her education. Nina, she cried out, her voice trembling loudly enough for the whole shop to hear. Please. I'm begging you. Leave my husband alone. The bakery fell dead silent. Students lowered their coffee cups. Sabrina looked ready to leap over the counter and commit murder. I slowly wiped my hands on my apron, walked around the counter, and stood a few feet away from her. Erin, I said, my voice completely devoid of emotion. Are you lost? The psychiatric ward is 3 blocks down. I should know. Your husband paid for my stay there. A few people in the crowd gasped. Erin's face turned crimson. Don't play dumb with me, she shrieked, the victim facade crumbling into viciousness. I checked his GPS. He parks outside your shop every single day. You're trying to seduce him back. You're trying to ruin my family. She pointed a trembling, diamond-clad finger at me. I'm pregnant. How could you be so cruel? Have you no shame? I looked at this woman. I looked at the belly she was weaponizing against me, and I felt a cold, dark abyss open up in my chest, not of sorrow, but of absolute clarity. Erin, I said softly, stepping closer so only she and the front row of customers could hear. 7 years ago, I was 5 months pregnant. You and Aiden stood in my living room, and you told me that you didn't want a title, that you just wanted to stay by his side. She swallowed hard, taking a step back as if my calmness physically repelled her. I lost my child because of the two of you. I continued, my voice smooth as glass. So do not stand in my bakery and lecture me about cruelty. Do not use your unborn child as a shield when you willingly danced on the grave of mine. He loves me, she screamed, though it sounded like she was trying to convince herself. He named a planet after me. Arendon. We are forever. He named a rock in the void of space after you. I corrected her gently. Cold, dead, and entirely dependent on the sun for any light. It's fitting. I sighed, looking at the black Audi that had just abruptly pulled up outside. Aiden scrambled out, his face pale with panic as he rushed toward the bakery door. He must have tracked her phone when he realized she found out about his detours. He burst through the door, chest heaving. Erin, what are you doing here? Aiden. She burst into loud, ugly tears, throwing herself at him. Tell her you love me. Tell her to stop trying to steal you. Aiden held her, but his eyes were fixed on me. There was horror in his gaze, not at Erin's behavior, but at the way I was looking at them, like they were tragic, diseased animals in a zoo. Nina, I'm sorry, Aiden breathed out, trying to usher his hysterical wife toward the door. I didn't mean for her to come here. I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me, Aiden, I said, turning my back and walking back to the espresso machine. Take your wife home. And if I see your car on my street again, I won't call the police. I will simply release the university disciplinary records you worked so hard to bury 7 years ago. I kept copies. Have a wonderful afternoon, Professor. The door chimed. They left in a flurry of sobs and hissed arguments. Sabrina came up beside me, staring out the window as the Audi sped away. Are you okay? She asked softly. I poured a perfect shot of espresso, watching the rich golden crema settle at the top. Sabrina. I smiled, breathing in the scent of roasted coffee. I've never been better. The final unraveling of Aiden Sanders did not require my interference. It only required time. When a man builds his empire on the broken spine of the woman who held him up, the collapse is inevitable. Over the next 2 years, the news filtered in piece by piece. Aiden's groundbreaking research stalled. He hadn't published a significant paper in years. The prodigy label has an expiration date, and without new discoveries to fuel his arrogance, his funding began to dry up. The real tragedy, however, was his personal life. Erin gave birth to a healthy baby girl, but motherhood did not cure her paranoia, it amplified it. She became a terror in the faculty housing, accusing Aiden of sleeping with his graduate students. She caused scenes at academic galas, throwing wine in the face of a female colleague who merely asked Aiden about his research. Eventually, the university had enough. To avoid a public scandal, they quietly stripped Aiden of his tenure-track privileges and moved him to an administrative, purely observational role. The genius astrophysics doctor was relegated to managing departmental budgets and teaching freshman prerequisites. And the minor planet, Arendon? A year later, an international astronomical committee reclassified it. Due to a miscalculation in its orbital trajectory, it was determined that Arendon wasn't a minor planet at all. It was merely a fragment of space debris, a transient comet that had flared brightly for a moment before burning out as it entered the gravitational pull of a larger gas giant. The name was officially struck from the registry. Forever Intertwined turned out to be just dust. It was the 9th year since my divorce. Jones' Bakery had expanded. I bought the storefront next door and turned it into a small, elegant cafe with floor-to-ceiling windows, warm mahogany tables, and shelves filled with books. My parents, whose hair had once turned white from worry, now spent their afternoons sitting by the fireplace drinking tea and arguing over crossword puzzles. It was the first snowfall of winter. The sky was a heavy, bruised purple and thick, perfect snowflakes drifted down to blanket the city. I was locking up the shop for the night. The streets were quiet, the orange glow of the street lamps casting long shadows across the snow. As I pulled my scarf tightly around my neck and picked up my umbrella, I noticed a figure sitting on the cold stone steps of the alleyway beside my shop. He was huddled into a thin winter coat, snow gathering on his shoulders. He was shivering, his head bowed, looking at the cracked pavement. My footsteps crunched in the snow. The sound made him lift his head. Through the falling snow, I looked into the eyes of Aiden Sanders. He looked 10 years older than his actual age. His face was gaunt, the sharp, handsome features now hollowed out by exhaustion and defeat. The arrogant spark in his eyes was entirely extinguished. He looked exactly like the broken, abandoned 8-year-old boy I had found in the stairwell all those years ago. I knew, without asking, what had happened. I had heard the rumors that Erin had finally left him, taking their daughter and half his dwindling assets to move in with a wealthy older department head. Aiden had lost his godhood. He had lost his garden. He was nothing but a man sitting in the cold. He looked up at me. His lips trembled, turning blue from the cold. "Nina," he whispered, his voice so fragile it was almost lost in the winter wind. In his eyes, I saw the desperate, silent plea. He was waiting for me to gasp. Was waiting for my heart to soften. He was waiting for me to reach out my hand, say his name with pity, and bring him inside to the warmth. He was waiting for the girl who loved him enough to save him. I stood there for a long moment. I let the snow fall between us. I looked at his shivering hands. I looked at the pathetic tilt of his head. I felt the steady, calm beating of my own heart, whole and unscarred. Then, I pressed the button on my umbrella. It opened with a sharp, crisp snap, shielding me from the snow. I didn't say a word. I didn't smile. I didn't frown. I simply turned my face forward, adjusted the strap of my bag, and walked past him. "Nina," he choked out, a sound of absolute, devastating despair. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I walked down the snow-covered street, toward the bright, glowing lights of the avenue, the scent of fresh cinnamon and vanilla lingering lightly on my coat. Behind me, the wind howled through the alley, burying the past exactly where it belonged, in the cold and in the dark.